Hello everybody and welcome this morning to TTG Aussie Fest's Cultural Attractions of Australia Masterclass. Delighted to see you all here, and I'm also delighted to introduce Annabelle Sullivan, Executive Officer, Cultural Attractions of Australia, which is part of the Tourist Board's Signature Experiences of Australia programme. Today, during this masterclass, we're going to be introducing to you the cultural attractions of Australia, where they are, what they are, and why they're really well worth a visit. We'll be covering details of the most popular cultural experiences in Australia. We'll also be taking a virtual tour of Sydney Opera House, one of those most iconic experiences. And of course, there's an opportunity for you to ask questions in the chat function. There'll be a live Q&A at the end of the masterclass. So anything you want to know, anything you'd like to ask Annabelle, please do pop a question into that chat function. So, Annabelle, could you first tell us what the cultural attractions of Australia actually are?
Absolutely. Hi, Abby, and thanks for having me today. So the cultural attractions of Australia, they're iconic attractions around Australia, everything from the Sydney Opera House to Mona, which is a fabulous new and old museum in Tasmania. And we also have the Qantas Founders Museum in Queensland. So they're attractions that are iconically Australian and tell different Australian stories, whether they're visual arts, performing arts, our cultural heritage, or even our sporting heritage. We've got the MCG as one of our members as well.
Wow, fantastic. And how many activities are in the collection? How do you select them for the portfolio?
So they have to be iconically Australian. They have to be well known. So they're attractions that everybody around the world are aware of. And they need to be able to have experiences that show the attraction behind the scenes. So something that you can't get if you just actually go up and buy a tour or a ticket. So they've got an exclusive experience. And they also are able to be sold through the travel distribution network.
Fantastic. And perhaps you could tell us what some of the highlight attractions in the collection are.
That's a really hard question because they're all absolutely fabulous. I thought I might answer this with the ones that I've experienced recently. So I was in Canberra and I had the opportunity to do a behind the scenes tour of the Australian War Memorial. And it was taken by a guide who knows everything about the collections within the Australian War Memorial. But what was really interesting was we got to meet a couple of the archivists. So they can tell you stories about a gun or a hat or a letter that has actually been written and received by a family. So you get to hear stories that really bring the whole collection alive. So that was a fairly extraordinary experience for me. Another one that I had the great opportunity to experience recently was with the Australian National Maritime Museum. And I was on Sydney Harbour on a Edwardian steam yacht called Ina. And the guides that were on that boat with us, no matter where you pointed around the harbour, they could tell you incredible stories, whether it was Bennelong Point or whether it was Sydney Harbour Bridge. And they also could take you back 100 years and you really got to feel what it was like to be a socialite 100 years ago. So that's what's incredible about all of these experiences, is that you get to hear the stories of the attractions and the parts of the exhibits that they actually showcase.
Amazing. It sounds really interesting. Of course, one of the most iconic of the cultural attractions is the Sydney Opera House. And I know, tourists from Britain so excited to see that when they arrive in Sydney. We've now got some footage that shows us behind the scenes at Sydney Opera House. Annabelle, can you just tell us a little bit about what we're about to look at?
So we just wanted to give you a taste of what it was like to go behind the scenes at the Sydney Opera House. And we've actually got one of the guides doing a voiceover. So he will actually, again, tell you about what you're seeing and the stories that really bring alive the performing arts location of the Sydney Opera House. So enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sydney Opera House. My name is Declan, and I'm going to be your tour guide as we go around today. I'm very excited to have you all here, and I hope you all enjoy. So again, folks, welcome to the world-famous Sydney Opera House. Now, despite what the name suggests, the Opera House is actually home to much more than just opera. It's one of the busiest performing arts centres in the world. And up until our closure in March of 2020, we were hosting some 1,800 performances every year. Now, these performances take place under the three sets of sails you see in front of us. To the left is Bennelong, our fine dining restaurant. In the middle, the concert hall, and to our right, the Jones Sutherland Theatre. Now, these sails sit atop a podium which houses our drama, studio, and playhouse theatres, as well as the Utzon Room. Let's have a look at the sorts of performances that happen here. The land on which the Opera House stands is today known as Bennelong Point. It is an area of land that is of great significance to the First Nations people of Australia. Prior to the arrival of English settlers in 1788, it was known as Tubagali, home to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, a gathering place for eating, singing, dancing, and telling stories. And during those times, crossing into another group's country required a request for permission to enter. When permission was granted, the hosting group would welcome the visitors, offering them safe passage and protection of their spiritual being during the journey. While visitors were provided with a safe passage, they also had to respect the protocols and rules of the landowner whilst on their country. So, as visitors today, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the Gadigal, who were the first Indigenous men and women to inhabit this land, and pay our respects to elders present and emerging. Today, the land on which the Sydney Opera House stands is still a place to eat, gather, and tell stories, just in a very different way to then. Among those who continue to tell stories on this land is Bangarra Dance Theatre, one of the world's leading Indigenous dance companies, who usually call our drama theatre home. The iconic sails of the Sydney Opera House have made this building one of the most recognisable in the world, reflecting the sun like a combination of snow and ice. To give you some background as to how the Sydney Opera House came to be, its design was born out of an international competition held in 1958. The competition attracted 220 entries from all over the world. The winning entry was number 218. A revolutionary design from a little-known Danish architect by the name of Jørn Utzon. Whilst Utzon was responsible for the exterior of the building, the inside was designed by an Australian architect, Peter Hall, who took over the project after Utzon's departure in 1966. But we'll learn about that a little later in the tour. We are now underneath the podium, heading towards stage door. Now, this is where staff and performers alike enter the Opera House. Through these doors have walked thousands of actors and actresses and performers, famous names such as Cate Blanchett, Dame Jones Sutherland, Prince, the Wu-Tang Clan, Bob Dylan, Lizzo, as well as heads of state such as Barack Obama, and of course, Queen Elizabeth II, who herself opened the Sydney Opera House in 1973. It's time to head inside and take a look behind the scenes.
Hi, Welcome to Sydney Opera House.
So, welcome behind the scenes to the main rehearsal room. The Sydney Opera House is home to a number of resident companies, one of the biggest of which is the Australian Ballet. Founded in 1962, today it is headed up by its artistic director, David Holberg, himself a world-renowned dancer. Normally off limits to the public, this room is used by the ballet to rehearse current and upcoming productions and is fitted out with mirrors and bars to assist the dancers as they rehearse. The dimensions of this space mimic the exact space available on the Jones Sutherland Theatre stage where the ballet performs. This allows them to mark out the room with the exact location of sets, scenery, and positioning cues for the dancers, making the process of planning and rehearsing a production a far more realistic one. Now, the flooring is also unique to the ballet. It is what is called a sprung floor. Sandwiched between two plywood planks is foam cushioning. This ensures that the floor has some give in it to help protect the knees and feet of the dancers. It is covered in a black material, not unlike kitchen linoleum, called tarquette. The surface allows the dancers to both slide freely, but also provides them with the ability to grip and dig their toes in as is needed. Let's meet some of these stars.
Hi everyone, here we are in the main rehearsal room of the Opera House. This is where some of the magic is prepared. My name is Simon Kenway and I'm a conductor for both the Australian Ballet and Opera Australia. Today we are very fortunate to be joined by two brilliant young dancers, Belle Irwin and Cameron Holmes. Belle, how did you first get into classical dance?
I'm originally from Sydney. I started ballet at the age of 4 with my 3 siblings. I left home at the age of 14 to relocate to Melbourne to start my training at the Australian Ballet School full time. After graduating, I was accepted into the Australian Ballet Company as a quarter ballet member.
Hi, I'm Cameron Holmes and this is my 3rd year with the Australian Ballet. Ballet for me is about that strive for perfection, and today we are rehearsing Swan Lake and I'm performing the Malvariation Siegfried solo.
That was pretty amazing. Now, any questions you may have, I'll ask you just to hang on to those, as I believe there will be a Q&A a little later on. For the time being, however, welcome to the scenery dock of the Jones Sutherland Theatre. This space is where we store our sets and scenery for both the opera and ballet. These sets arrive by truck to an underground loading dock 13 metres below where we are standing now. From there, they are wheeled into this enormous lift, brought up and stored here, ready to make their way to the stage. In the peak of opera season, this area would be crammed full of sets and scenery for up to 5 different operas waiting to be assembled for each performance. In most opera houses around the world, all of this would happen to the side or the rear of the stage in what are called the wings. But because of the unique design of the opera house sails, we don't have the luxury of such wing space. What we do have, however, is all of this space underneath the stage. The trick, though, is getting it from down here all the way up to the stage 3 floors above. To do that, we use another massive lift. Called the rear stage lift, it actually forms the rear third of the stage above. But as you've just seen, it could be lowered down to this level where sets, scenery, actors, actresses, and even live animals can be loaded on and taken to the stage above. The job of operating this lift falls to our mechs or stage crew, who are responsible for moving set and scenery up to the stage. Once at stage level, the pieces are wheeled off the lift and then, like a large jigsaw puzzle, are put together for each different performance. After the performance, this process is then reversed. On matinee days, this will happen 4 or 5 times in one afternoon, a little bit like building and dismantling a small house several times in the space of half a day. Let's take a ride up to the stage. Welcome to the Jones Sutherland Theatre stage. Home to both Opera Australia, who perform approximately 184 operas and musicals each year across 3 seasons, it is also home to the Australian Ballet, who perform 92 ballets across 2 seasons each year. Now, most operas, especially the big ones such as La Bohème or La Traviata, require enormous, sometimes elaborate sets, and from here, you can see just how little wing space there is to work with. This makes it a creatively challenging stage on which to plan and present such productions. It is the reason why the lift space below the stage is so important. Now, the management of every performance is the responsibility of the stage manager. They work from the stage manager's desk, hidden away on what we call the prompt side of stage, so called because the stage manager prompts all elements of the performance. During every show, it is the stage manager who controls all the cues for the performance, such as the lighting changes, the timing of changes to set and scenery, as well as ensuring performers' lines are delivered on time. Now, whilst this stage does not have the benefit of wing space, as we have seen, it has ample space below and also above. Sitting above the whole stage is what we call a fly tower. This huge space that rises 16 meters above houses 78 fly bars. We can attach almost anything to these bars, which can then be lowered and raised as desired. Most commonly, we would attach backdrops for scenery and parts of the set. In some cases, however, we have even attached performers themselves. Now, in the old days of theatre, and prior to the renovation in 2017, these bars would be manually controlled by a system of ropes and pulleys. The fly tower in this theatre, however, is now fully computer controlled, with all of the bars attached to winches that raise and lower the bars at precise speeds and with precision accuracy.
Welcome everyone for what I am sure will be a highlight of your virtual tour. The Sydney Opera House was built to showcase the human voice, and today we are very fortunate to have the incredible young soprano Olivia Cranwell here to sing for us. Opera singers are the elite athletes of the theatrical world. Olivia would do at least 4 hours vocal exercise every day, as well as studying languages, music, acting. So many skills are involved in this profession. Today, Olivia will be portraying a young woman in love. The character's name is Lauretta, and she is a teenager in love with a very inappropriate young man, and she's begging her father for permission to marry him. It's an example of teenage emotional blackmail. Here to sing O mio bambino caro from Puccini's opera Gianni Schicchi is Olivia Cranwell.
Oh, mio bambino
That was very impressive. Big thank you to Olivia, Simon, and all the other performers we've seen today. Now, folks, that's all we have time for today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you along for this particular tour, and we all hope to see you down here at the Sydney Opera House at some point in the near future as well. So thank you very, very much, and that's where we'll leave it for today. Farewell and good enjoy.
That was fantastic, Annabelle. Thanks so much. What a lovely insight into one of those incredible cultural attractions. Could you now tell us what top tips you have for building an itinerary that incorporates one or more of the cultural attractions?
I think what's great about these attractions is that if you're going to a destination like Sydney or Canberra or Hobart, you can actually incorporate a couple of the experiences because they're all quite different. And as I mentioned before, some might focus on sport, but some might actually focus on the cultural heritage. So they offer quite a bit of diversity to any itinerary that you'd be putting together for someone coming to Australia.
Fantastic. And do you have sample itineraries that agents can use?
We absolutely do. So yes, I can share those with you, and they're a really good suggestion of how you could actually incorporate them into an itinerary. We like to say that we help you curate an itinerary for you, because all of these tours that we've created are for the curious traveller, for people that really are looking for something a bit different.
Brilliant. I'm sure that'd be really, really useful for lots of our agents here. It's been really fantastic to speak to you today, Annabelle. Really insightful and great to learn about some of these incredible experiences that agents can sell to their customers coming to visit Australia. And thank you as well, everybody, for tuning in and listening to what we've had to say this morning. Please, could you now just move over to our live Q&A. You can see the room there now, where you'll be able to put your questions to Annabelle and also to Amy Hackett, the Business Development Manager for the Sydney Opera House. Enjoy the rest of the day, and thanks so much for joining us.
We are live. I'm here with Amy Hackett from Sydney Opera House and Annabelle Sullivan from Cultural Attractions of Australia. Thank you for joining. I hope you all enjoyed the tour of the Sydney Opera House. Some fantastic dancing in there. Loved it. We have already had a couple of questions come in. One is from Amanda, and she's asking, are private tours available for the Opera House, and how much would a tour cost? So Amy, I think we should come to you for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So private tours 100% are available. Depending on the tour, the price does definitely change. But as long as you've got like a group and you've got 12 packs or more, then the cost comes off. But normally retail, it's $43 per person for a standard 1 hour tour, which is probably what you saw with Declan. That's sort of where you get like a glimpse of a bit of everything. So $43 per person times 12. So I'm a salesperson, not a mathematician, so whatever that works out to be, that's the cost of a private.
Cool. And Elaine's asking, is that particular behind the scenes tour available to book?
So a behind the scenes tour is slightly different. We also have them available, and we can also do them private if you want. The main difference with the behind the scenes is that they've got a limited capacity of around 10 people, and that's just due to the spaces that you do get to go and see. So that's why we've got a limited capacity of 10.
Great. Okay. And Annabelle, Julie is asking, is there a list of the attractions available that she can access?
We've got a dedicated website, so that's probably the best place to go and have a look initially. And it has on the website the attractions that we have, the experiences that you can access, and there's also some suggested itineraries of how you can actually combine the various experiences and attractions that we've got throughout all of Australia.
Okay, great. Oh, she just found it, so she's already there. So we have had another one from, I just saw it, there it is. Carol is asking, is the Sydney Opera House open daily all year round, and what times is it open for the public? Amy?
Sure. So different parts of the Opera House are open daily throughout the year. There are some special days that there aren't, mainly Christmas Day, New Year's Eve to some times, depending on what's happening around the harbour as well. At that time, it really comes down to, I guess, Sydney is a city, but we've got that all in our rates as well. And Australia Day as well, just because of what's happening in the harbour. But our food and beverage facilities are always open, but it's just more so what you can do inside the house. That's when you've got those limited block out dates, but it's only maybe like three days a year. On New Year's Day, I know that we still open from, I think, 1 p.m. onwards, so we still just have the morning part cut off, and then afternoons all free for tours.
Great, thanks. Annabelle, Greg is agreeing with you here. He is saying, oh, I've just lost it again. Where's it gone? It's scrolling. He said he really enjoyed the Australian War Memorial in Canberra a couple of years ago. He said it's definitely worth a visit. It's a very humbling experience. So
absolutely. And when I did the recent tour, I was quite overwhelmed at how emotional it was. And I think the opportunity to have an expert guide actually take you through, you get to hear the stories that you wouldn't actually know anything about unless you actually had that private and a curated tour like we offer. So thanks, Greg.
Great. Julie is hoping to be in Sydney in late February next year. And she's asking, when will the What's On guide be published for those dates? Annabelle?
I am not sure. Do you mean the actual What's On at Sydney Opera House? Probably.
So I can probably redirect. If it's What's On at Sydney Opera House, then our tours 100% will be ready to go, and we've got availability as of now available. So hoping that you guys can all get over here and enjoy Sydney. But in terms of performances at the Opera House, we've got different resident companies such as Australian Ballet, and Opera Australia, so they do obviously all the singing. So that comes down to their schedules, but we're all we're open. So as long as it's open, then we'll be performing and we'll be waiting for you guys.
Great. Suzanne is asking, how many cultural attractions are there, and are they countrywide? Annabelle?
Okay, great question. So we've got 18 cultural attractions, and we've got every state and territory other than the Northern Territory covered at this point. So we've got Mona and Port Arthur in Tasmania. We've obviously got the Sydney Opera House in New South Wales, as well as the Maritime Museum and Opera Australia. We've got Qantas Founders Museum, which is in Queensland. Western Australia, we've got covered with Fremantle Prison and the Maritime Museum over there. Victoria, we've got the National Gallery of Victoria and also the Arts Centre. And we've got Adelaide Oval, and in Canberra, we've got the War Memorial and the National Gallery and the National Museum. So we cover a range of performing arts, the visual arts, the sporting experiences, as well as the cultural and heritage.
Great, thank you. And one thing I was wondering is, I mean, you've obviously got such a spread across the country there. If an agent's client was wanting to travel to Australia, was really into their culture, they wanted to do Sydney as a twin centre and pair it with another city, which city would you recommend for that?
Oh, that's so hard. Sydney and probably Melbourne would be a good combination, or Sydney and Adelaide, because then, yeah, that would be quite good because you could get the harbour and the beaches, and then you could go down to Adelaide and experience the Adelaide Oval and also go to the wineries there. So what's great about being part of the Signature Experiences is that you can match with all of the other collectives and the luxury lodges and the walks and the wine experiences. So we've got you covered no matter where you are.
Great, thank you. And we did have another one come in, which was, which cultural attraction would you recommend for younger travellers?
Okay. We've got Sovereign Hill, which is in Ballarat, and they have actually a family experience. So it's a living museum, and it's all about the goldfields and you can actually stay there overnight in cottages, and you can actually wake up in the morning and spend some time with the farm animals. So that's probably one that's an obvious one. But what we're finding is a lot of the attractions always cater to that younger audience as well. So whether it's the galleries with some of the children's activities, or Opera House with some of the children's performances as well. So we'll always cater for the families.
Absolutely. And what about if a client was looking for something a bit unusual? I know that the cultural attractions of Australia are the iconic Australian experiences, as you said earlier. But if they wanted something that was a bit off the beaten track, a bit of a secret, what would you recommend for them?
I would consider either the Qantas Founders Museum, which is in Longreach in Queensland, and it's it's located in our outback. But obviously there's so much history there with Qantas being our national airline. So that's definitely off the beaten track. And the other destination that springs to mind is Tasmania, which has Mona and also Port Arthur located there. So it's an island, it's got so much to offer, and both of those attractions are just part of what you could actually experience down in Tasmania.
Great, thank you. That is just about all we've got time for today. So thank you to everyone for asking your questions, and thank you to Annabelle and Amy for answering them so eloquently. It's been great.